YouTube? I am your host, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, back in here with yet one more video. Alright guys, you see the title of the video. I'm going to get into it in a second. So I just recently uploaded a video entitled How I More Than Doubled My Income in 2 years by getting a full tuition scholarship for my Master's of Business Administration. And I just got a question from Shao Kun, Shoulder Charge, on that video, and it's such a fantastic question. I just decided to throw up the camera and just start talking because I got a little bit of time to talk. So that question reads, what are the milestones that you hit that took you from minimum wage to 6 figures today? And I was thinking about writing a comment about this, but I wanted to do a video about it because I wanted more people to understand and learn from my experiences, because I think it's really important to listen to how other people live their lives so you can make more informed decisions about yourself as well. So Shao Kahn, I'm answering your question, but this really goes out to everybody. And let me also make something clear for you guys. I'm not putting out these videos as an attempt to like brag about my situation. I really and truly think that you cannot dream what you cannot see. And if I was not able to see lights at the end of the tunnel, or able to see the experiences of people that I looked up to, I would never think that those things were possible for me. Now, I'm not saying that every step that I took in my path or my road, it was 100% correct, but I was very strategic in every single move to calculate what is gonna be the best decision for me moving forward towards my goal. So I'll start in the beginning, all right? This is little Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, right? I was 17 years old, my first job ever in minimum wage, and at the time minimum wage was $5.15. I was making $5.15 an hour being a camp counselor. I was in the summer between graduating high school and then going to college. And I knew I was going to be going to college, and I knew what college I was going to be going to, but I wanted to work throughout that summer so I can make a little bit of money, so when I went out there, I'd have a little bit of spending money. By far the worst job that I could have ever had, because not only are you working hard for just $5.15 an hour, but they assigned me to 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, and I'm like, you know, at the time I'm a super athletic dude, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I could do this for a summer at minimum wage because, you know, they'll link me up with 10 and 11-year-olds. We'll be playing basketball all day, you know, dodgeball all day. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But no, they hooked me up with the 4 and 5-year-olds. So literally all day I would just be in a room sitting. It was terrible. But anyway, that was my first minimum wage job. So what was my next job? Now, my next job after that, this was when I was about 2 years into my undergrad program, and I just decided I'm tired of being absolutely broke. So I decided to get another job. I ended up working for a company that was like a cold calling telemarketing company for coffee, like Javalia coffee or something like that. We used to sell these coffee beans or these Arabica beans. And I worked this job because I heard that they had a $15 an hour minimum. And I thought it was an awesome opportunity, and the place was really close to where I lived at, right? So I wouldn't have to travel. So boom, I applied and I got in. This was my shortest job ever. So this is like one of my greatest life lessons, because I ended up actually getting fired from the job. So what I didn't know going into it is how high the turnover rate was. And if you wasn't making a minimum amount of sales, they would just get rid of you. So it was funny, like when I started there, let's say I worked there for like 6 weeks or something like that. And the first 2 weeks, I'm like looking at the desk in the next couple of days, and I'm like, man, what happened to Ricky? Like, what happened to Bobby? What's going on over here? And I didn't know that every time that they called them into the back office, they were letting all of these people go. So at the time, and I actually took it extremely hard when this happened, because, you know, I had at that point, you know, had not been fired from anything, but it was a learning experience in itself. And I'd say like the greatest lesson that I learned at that time was bouncing back from a failure. And I knew that even though it didn't work out, I took something that I felt like I was actually doing a pretty good job at, and someone told me that I wasn't doing a good job at, and it just made me stronger at the end of the day. After I recovered from that loss, I learned not to let that specific defeat define my future. How did that turn out? Well, my very next job was another telemarketing job. I had an opportunity to apply to a credit card company that was doing almost the same thing as the last company. I had to pick up the phone and call people to sell them credit cards. Now, the thing is I noticed immediately that I was actually really good at it. And, you know, to this day, I still think about, why was I so bad at the coffee selling, but I was so good at the credit card selling? And I think like it had a component to do with things that I was interested in, which was money. So I think I could get a lot more behind the products that I was trying to sell, and it kind of came off in the way that I would speak about it. So I ended up doing that job, which was around $15 an hour, for about a year, I want to say. And it was tough. It wasn't easy. It was very stressful too, but I had to get myself into a place where it wouldn't bother me if people would cuss me out on the phone call. And it wouldn't bother me if you made it all the way to the end of a sale and then they ended up just hanging up on you. You can't give them a call back. I just had to keep my eye on the prize because I knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I ended up turning that situation and getting promoted into another situation, which is where I was a collections manager. So the first job, I'm selling you credit cards. The second job, I'm actually calling you when you're past due. So essentially, I got to see the whole value stream of like a credit card company and how it all works. And the funny thing is that when I'm selling you a credit card, I gotta read this entire script, make sure that, you know, my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed and what have you. But when we're collecting your money, there is no script. It's just like, yo, with a Cashapp. But anyway, I love that opportunity because it was less restrictions, but I was able to still learn many things about finances, which, you know, gave me two benefits. Number one, I started to learn really early on the benefits of appropriately allocating your money so that you're not in debt. And I understood the negatives of holding a balance on a credit card very early on in my career. So again, as we talked about before, I put myself out there and started learning things outside of the curriculum that are helping me to this day. To this day, I have not revolved a balance on my credit card even 1 month. And that's a goal that I set for myself after on the phone talking to these people right before the financial crisis of 2008. So here's where the big flip happened. I was able to take my experiences at this credit card company, and there was a career fair at my undergrad. And one of the companies that came down there is one of the largest banking companies in the United States. And I ended up having a conversation with one of the reps, the HR reps, and they were actually recruiting for credit card positions in corporate. And it was like a business analyst role in corporate of this separate company, but it was in their corporate office. And so I told them about my experiences. I ended up getting an interview, and it was one of those times in my life where I kind of put all the chips on the table, because at this point I was going to graduate and I didn't have anything necessarily lined up or even close to lining up. I mean, my resume at the time was just complete and utter trash, but I ended up building rapport with the lady at the booth in such a way that I wrote my name down and on the interview slots, and they just called me the next day. But we'll get into a video at a separate time regarding interview strategies. So I ended up interviewing, and I did well in the interview, and they ended up calling me back and they offered me an internship for the next summer at the corporation. And I was elated, right? So this is like the summer of 2006. No, summer of 2007. So summer of 2007, I was supposed to have graduated, but it ended up taking me an extra semester. So I did the internship. I ended up being a super senior. That'll be another entire video in my undergraduate. Finished out the last couple of months, and then started full time in 2008 because I worked my tail off during the internship, and they gave me the full-time offer, which was one of the biggest flips in my life, right? So think about it. I went from minimum wage before school, during school, 15 an hour, to another company that gave me another 15 an hour, but gave me a lot of knowledge that I was able to use to flip into an internship offer, also in combination with my degree at that time. So that role right there, the full-time role, I worked at that company for a period of about 3.5 years. I ended up getting a promotion during the time that I was there. And during that time, I started researching grad school programs. I had some friends, some of my closest constituents, they were all talking about getting an MBA, and I'm like, okay, I had no intentions on ever going back to school, but let me start researching this stuff, you know, because I started to see some of the benefits, some of the monetary benefits of when you graduate, what's the type of money that you can pull. So around 2010, that's when I started my application process. I ended up getting into a school with a full tuition ride, and that's what started my MBA program. 2 years after that, after I finished that arduous task, I started going to MBA career conferences, and I was at the National Black MBA Career Conference, which is one of the largest career conferences in the country. It usually draws about 11,000 people, 100 plus companies, some of the largest companies throughout the United States. I ended up going to that, and I ended up securing a full-time role at the career fair with the company that I'm still employed with today, almost 6 years later. And then that was my flip into the 6 figures. Now listen, guys, I want to have a moment of realness with you. I want to have a moment of clarity with you. There's a lot of things in your life that have been put in your way as obstacles to make you think that you cannot elevate to a level of greatness. There's a lot of things, whether that be people, your parents, whether that be friends in your network, whether that be your teachers that told you that. Listen, let me tell you guys something. There was nothing special about me, right? There's nothing. I was never a straight A student. I was never the top of the class. I was never, I was a B student, sometimes B minus, sometimes B plus. But what I knew about myself is that for things that I really focused on, that really interest me, those were the things that I was an A student in. So I would say on your path of life, you need to figure out, where does your A student reside? I had to figure that out very early because I knew that if I continued on the path that I was gonna live in a situation of mediocrity. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted nothing but greatness for myself. And that's not to say that I'm great right now, but I hope to be there one day. And I'm still defining that path. I think you have to have a spectrum of what it is that you're interested in. Now, I'll say from each milestone in my life, I've worked on and I've continued to reduce my spectrum to see, of the things that I'm trying in my spectrum, what is closest to something that I'm actually passionate about. I've tried a bunch of different things, from sales to information technology. Being able to do that, trust me when I say I failed at many things on my route in order to figure out what this is. But during my route, I've always placed myself in a situation of learning. It's that concept of improving versus proving. I think a lot of people get themselves caught up because they get into a new situation and are so focused on proving themselves that their ears shut off. They're not listening anymore. They're forcing a situation when really all you got to do is take a step back sometimes and just learn from others. So I've gone over each and every milestone. You've seen each high, each low, all the paths. Any questions, comments, or concerns, leave it down in the description box down below. I really hope that I was able to help someone here today in understanding my path and my story in just these couple of minutes. I can talk about this stuff all day, but I don't want to belabor the point. I think you guys understand it. Keep working hard, keep on your purpose, keep focusing, keep grinding, set goals for yourself, all right? Set those goals and make them difficult, All right? Again, questions, comments, concerns, leave them down in the description box down below. Until next time, YouTube.